Professor Sadagopan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to ask, it's about the IT revolution or information technology. Now, how far has it progressed in India?
Okay, it has progressed, I would say, slowly but steadily. We had practically less than $1 million when I remember 1979, and today we are about $5 billion of software and IT-enabled services. In that sense, the progress has been good. We have reached what we call the critical stage, and something interesting is in the last almost 6 years in a row, we are growing at a percentage of 50% year after year. That means from 1994 to year 2000, every year we had growth of about 50 to 60% compared to the previous year. And in terms of some numbers, we also had some unusual successes. We have a few dollar billionaires who are even sitting right in this country, and of course several of them outside this country, but in the area of IT. And more interesting thing is we have almost 1,000, so about 500 rupee millionaires. So in that sense, it has created wealth to the country. And more specific things in the Indian context, which unfortunately we have been one of the notorious countries in terms of corruption. IT as an industry has created a fair and square means of creating wealth, a direct way of handling the government, a way of doing business without bending the rules. So in some sense, it has given new ways of doing business.
Right, so the IT revolution has progressed very positively, and the 50% growth is definitely impressive.
Yes.
Now, how has the IT revolution changed people's lives personally in India?
Okay, I would say the answer is a definite yes. Let me tell you a couple of things which really mean a lot to the average Indian. And let me also qualify that, we have to be clear that a country of billion people with about 200 to 300 million people who are below the poverty line. So a significant portion of the people who are really the poorest of the poor, to some extent, always remain outside any of the benefit immediately, because the benefits to them come at the second stage. Unless we generate enough wealth, we won't even have enough to distribute. But barring that, let me come to some specific points. There are close to about 1 million families in India whose sons and daughters are working outside the country, and they are the wanted people around the world. US alone, this year there will be 200,000 people going on H-1B visa. Majority of them are IT professionals. And last 5 years, year after year, maybe about 100 to 150,000 people have gone to US alone. And then there must be another about 10, 20,000 to other countries. So what has actually happened is that because many of them won't have had great opportunity to create wealth for themselves, share wealth for others, and just to make some more money in this country. So they didn't have the opportunity. The fact that the opportunity exists outside has given a ray of hope, particularly to the parents, because they do get their money, they get their dollars, etc. That is one part. And the second thing is that in this country, becoming rich, only way was, unfortunately, kind of cutting through the rules and maybe corrupting, bribing people, etc. That means fair means of making money are very limited. So all these parents feel that there are fair ways of making money. And specific application, I'll tell you, there is something called the Indian Railway Reservation System. Indian Railways is the second largest railways in the world, and close to 1 million passengers use that day after day. And by putting a system called Railway Reservation System, that means you can make seat reservations for any ticket from any place to any place in several classes, the cheapest being the second class and the most expensive being AC first class. We have about 9 classes of rails, etc. And what this means is almost 1 million people every day, their average waiting time has come down from about 2.5 hours to 25 minutes. So rough calculation will tell you about 20 million waiting hours is saved day after day. That's a positive impact. And minor things, email is used by millions of Indians. Not everybody has a PC. We do have the concept of shared terminal or the internet kiosk. And students can use access libraries around the world. And examination results, most examination results are announced on the web. Admission status are announced on the web. They download free software, browse the internet, chat with people. So the whole thing is more than doing any one of them. They are empowered to dream. I think that has been the real benefit. But access to ATMs, access to a lot of internet-based banking, and a few 100,000 trade stocks online. So all these benefits are there.
So there seem to be positive benefits, but as you mentioned, it is giving people many dreams.
Yes.
There do seem to be many Indian engineers throughout the world. Now,
Yes.
why has IT spread so much in India?
See, there are several things which contributed to it. Surprisingly, if you look through, Indians were entrepreneurial all along. But somehow the post-independent India, somehow with overbearing government policies, where almost for doing anything you need government permission, and to get the permissions you need connections. If you don't have connections, you need to probably please somebody, the typical corruption, etc., etc. So all these things have essentially suppressed people. Thanks to IT, you don't really need too much money, you don't need too much connection. So IT became a godsend for lots of Indians. That was one part. That is characteristic of the industry itself. To be fair, as far as IT is concerned, government has played a very positive role. Government has set up what are called technology park, the software technology parks, the hardware technology parks, etc., where lots of things were available in a single window. Permissions, access to the net, access to the bandwidth, access to the telecommunication, access to infrastructure. So the government playing an enabling role has helped a lot. Of course, the English language and access to the English language for an average Indian has been exceptionally high. If you carefully look through, an average Indian today not necessarily only speaks English and writes English, he almost thinks English. Many of us who are from this part of the country, we would actually have a mother tongue which is common. But most of the time, in professional interaction, we start using English. So that means English got internalized. Because English got internalized, we have access to a phenomenal amount of information which is available primarily in English. Includes the best of the books, the best of the software manuals, the documentation, and millions of web pages which are predominantly in English. The electronic books, the frequently asked questions, the FAQs, the Usenet news bulletins, all these things together have given us this benefit of using the IT. And probably the last but not the least, this country traditionally had a respect for knowledge. And IT invariably is what is called the knowledge work compared to the traditional blue-collar work. And because the knowledge was valued in this country, knowledge work was more natural to Indians. And that is probably one more reason why I think IT has spread so much in India.
Not only has it spread, it seems like it's broken many barriers. Now, has the spread of IT differed by region, by age bracket, financial status, or by any other aspects of the digital divide?
Okay. See, the digital divide has multiple dimensions in a country like India. See, traditionally, digital divide across the world, if you really look at it, it is primarily a set of people who do not get vis-a-vis the set of people who do get access to information. But being a heterogeneous country, you will find multiple divides showing up in multiple forms in the country. In the extreme case, you will find that inside a family there will be digital divide. That means the parents may not have access to a lot of IT, but the children will have. Then you go to broadly this country, the southern states, the states of Andhra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra, are definitely much better off in IT compared to the much of the North Indian states. But there is one exception called Kerala in South India, which just does not seem to have way of benefiting from IT. So similarly, you will find even in areas where there is a strong amount of IT concentration, there will be some pockets which get left out. So there is a multiple dimension. Broadly, one thing which is there in other countries also is also true in this country, that the IT gold rush is predominantly dominated by the younger population of people world over. And there are some unusual things like the state where Bangalore is located, the state of Karnataka, had a tradition of private sector run engineering colleges, what is generally called the donation colleges. The initial stages, they were actually not doing very well. But over the period of time, they got a maturity. They are still able to offer reasonably good quality education without the government having to invest, because government doesn't have money to invest. With the private sector coming and investing, so many more students had access to it. And last but not the least, there are also some unusual parts of digital divide, and particularly because large number of Indians end up working outside, you will find that good number of parents are starting to use IT heavily, because that is the only way by which they could communicate with their wards, maybe in the United States or Europe. So you will find that will be a couple of millions of parents who are very IT literate in the form of being able to use the web, being able to use the chat session, being able to use the email on a daily basis, to the extent of getting direct benefits, contacting their children, being able to get health information, being able to get a lot more development information. So in that sense, the digital divide again is very unusual, because the children teaching their parents have actually reversed the digital divide in large number of families. And of course, to reiterate my earlier statement, we do have a large number of illiterate people who are necessarily out of the digital society, and that is something which must worry us. So hopefully, lots of people are getting concerned about it. Several initiatives are on to address this. Hopefully, they will fall in place. We do believe at least for the next 5 to 10 years, India would continue to benefit out of this revolution, and we will be in a position to maintain this growth rate. And if we are able to maintain this growth rate, we already talk of about $50 billion of IT services export by year 2008. When something like that happens, obviously there will be sufficient amount of wealth generated which can be distributed to people.
Right, and I do hope the interference is also minimized and the wealth distributed properly. Last of all, we'd like to know what areas of the IT revolution do you think there can be cooperation with Japan?
Yeah, Japan has been a leader, and we are great admirers of Japan in one area, particularly what we call the mobile computing. And I have been following in the last about year and a half very closely your iMode service, which even by internet standards is a dramatic growth, almost 5 million subscribers in less than 18 months. And the fact that our telephone density is very low in India, so if we could learn from the success story of how to make internet access to larger number of people without really having to put in wires all over. And I think that India has made its mark in broadly the IT education, the software engineering and software services consulting, and that is an area where we might be in a position to offer and for Japanese corporations and Japanese institutions, and in some sense